Okay, thanks for being here today. I was supposed to fly out right after this and go direct to D.C. to vote on some legislation that's being talked about, but it looks like I don't have to fly out till tomorrow. But we wanted to play it safe, do it here. But I can't think of a better place than Eppley Airfield anyway, because we've helped invest $78 million. So this airport is going to be the pride and joy of Omaha, with double the terminals, direct flights to Caribbean and Mexico. And so this is part of the legacy I think our team, not me, but our team will have on this. And so thanks for being here. And, you know, in Ecclesiastes, it says in chapter 3 that there's a time for everything. There's a time for every season of activity under the sun. And 10 years ago in 3 months, Angie and I and our family made an announcement we were going to be a candidate for Congress. We had an uphill battle on that, but we ended up being the only Republican challenger to win in 2016 in the House or the Senate. And it never got easier, right? 2018, we lost 41 seats in the House, and we were able to pull out a victory at 2 points, outperforming by 8 points our party. And you can say the same thing for 2020, 2022, and even in 2024, we had everybody that does projections, eight of them, so we were going to lose. We had like 8 polls saying we were down, and we ended up winning by 2 points when the top of the ticket, Vice President Harris won by 5. And one some of the funniest quotes that we got out of this was, one Democrat called me a white elephant. I had another commentator says Don Bacon was grown in a laboratory, tailor-made for this district. And then the DCCC was asked, why did you lose? They go, we have no idea why. That was my favorite quote. But today I am announcing I'm not running for re-election. So I feel emotional. It's been a great 10 years. So I wasn't supposed to get emotional. That's not one of the things that's thinking about. We've worked 4 days out of 7 in Washington, D.C., 12, 14 hours a day. It's time to come home. So I look forward to working in the area and walking in the door saying hi to Angie every night. Now, this may be harder on her than me, but I look forward to coming home every night, and I also look forward to seeing, we have 3 adult children here who are married and living in the area. We also have 8 grandchildren total within 10 minutes of our house. And where's Elliot at? You want to step up here? This guy the other day goes, Grandpa, when are you going to retire? I want to see you more. So anyway, that's going to be fun to do that. Also, I wanted to just got to be honest. I think that we could win this district. I'm in a great position to win again. Politically, we're doing a great job with swing and voters. But it takes 12, 14 hours a day. And I want to devote more of that time to the family. And to win this district, you got to be all in. And you can't leave anything on the table. And we've done it 5 times. And so I think it's time for a new Republican to be our nominee that can do 12, 14 hour a day and hold this seat. I would also just want to add that I'm not going to retire. I am going to be active in this community. I love Omaha. I've lived at 16 places in the Air Force. This is our home. Best place to live in America. You didn't need to ask Forbes. You just ask me. I know firsthand. Right? So we want to be involved and make a difference. Also, on the national level, I have a voice in national security, and I want to be a voice for traditional Republican views that stem from Ronald Reagan. My first campaign that I got involved in was 13 years old in 1976, campaign for Ronald Reagan. And I haven't changed. I believe in the views that he espouses, so I want to be a voice there as well. I want to take a moment to just go through some successes. We've accomplished or got past 38 bills in the last 9 years. Many people go through Congress for 10 or 16 years to maybe get 1 bill passed. We got 38 bills signed into law. In the 118th Congress, we were the number 1 of 435 Congress people in getting legislation passed. And I'm proud of our team. I'm part of that team, but it takes the team to make that happen. In the 117th Congress, we were number 2 of 435 for legislation passed. We've been rated the most effective congressman twice, well, one time number 2, one time number 1, and twice we were rated the most bipartisan member of Congress. We've worked hard to do right, and our team has done a great job in doing that. What have we been able to do for the district? We got $1.4 billion for Offutt to rebuild after the flood, $160 million for a new runway at Offutt. By the way, we got a new runway at Wahoo Airport as well. Of course, we're doing work here at $78 million right here at Upley. We also rebuilt Ashland at the tune of just under $50 million. It's so important to our Nebraska National Guard. When I came in, I was an electronic warfare officer in the Air Force. I've been able to, with our team, this is Team Wins, to get the electronic warfare program back on track for the DoD. We have passed all the major legislation on electronic warfare out of our office. And for those who are familiar with electronic warfare, you don't win unless you control the electronic magnetic spectrum. And it's been something I've been able to champion in the House. I've been a champion of nuclear command and control and remodernizing the triad that is so important for the deterrence and the peace of our country. I was the chairman of the Quality of Life Committee in the Congress, where we passed 29 measures to improve the military's quality of life to the tune of about $5 million. We got pay raises for junior enlisted, new money for dormitories, barracks, housing, better health care, mental health, you name it. We try to make some improvements for those who serve. We want people that want to volunteer and want to remain in the military, but you got to take care of them when they're in. I was able to pass the foot and mouth disease vaccine bank. That was our measure out of our office, something that's important for our farmers out there. This doesn't have my name on it, but we got the anti-lynching bill passed. It was our legislation. We've been trying for 100 years to get this bill passed. I was able to get legislation submitted. I was trying to get somebody else to champion it. I couldn't get anybody else to champion it. So I put it in. I got a call from the Democratic majority. I was in the minority at that point. That says, "We now like your bill. We didn't like it before." I'm paraphrasing. But we're going to change the title because we can't give you credit. But it was passed verbatim, and it is law today, the bill that I submitted. Under somebody else's name, but it's verbatim what I submitted. I also was able to get past the Never Again Education Act. Again, not my name, but this bill had been stagnant for over 10 years, and I put a Republican name on it and pushed it to help out a colleague of mine in New York, and we got her done. And our schools today now have access to the Holocaust Museum, access on anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, and all of our schools have free access to that today if they want to use it because of that legislation. We passed the Charles Jackson. We got the post office named after Charles Jackson French. Sorry, I had to make sure I got the last name right. Here's a guy that was looked over, no medals. We got him a medal, obviously, after he died, and we got a mailbox named after him. He's become a local hero, but he was overlooked for a long time. We worked with Brad Ashford to get the VA ambulatory clinic done. He got it started. We helped finish it. He did the heavy lifting, and I give him credit, but it took the both of us to get that done, and I'm proud of it. It's the most beautiful clinic in the United States when it comes to the VA. We got the chip-in bill passed, reauthorized, something that he started, and we've been able to reauthorize it. By the way, we're going to try to get a new VA hospital here, and that's going to help contribute $700 million to whatever the federals put in for a new VA hospital. So I'm excited about the opportunity here. We passed the initial legislation on Gold Star families, taking care of spouses who lost a loved one, their husband or wife in Iraq or Afghanistan. And we've brought in a lot of different federal grants to North Omaha, South Omaha. We've been able to extend or rebuild natural gas pipelines that are 100 years old in Omaha and in Wahoo, a sewer and water infrastructure in Sarpy. We can go on and on. We've worked hard. We brought in $5 billion of infrastructure in recent years to the local area. Just a couple more things that aren't legislation, but I'm proud of. Our office stood up, re-stood up the Main Street Republicans. It's a group of Republicans who want to govern who are pragmatic and want to work across the aisle to get things done. Today, it's the second largest caucus in the Congress, so that's a little bit of a legacy that we leave on. I founded the Four Country Caucus, all veterans, half Republican, half Democrat, that want to work together and get things done. I'm the Baltic Security Chair. I love Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. They're on the front lines with Russia. They need us there for deterrence. I'm the chair of the Foster Care Caucus. My wife and I have been involved with foster care. 600,000 kids are in foster care. We want to make sure they have good homes and that when they transition that they have every reason for success. I'm on the Air Force Academy Board. We got great people going to our academies. I'm on the Holocaust Museum Board, which I love. I love that mission. Never forget, never again. It's a great mission. So this is just some of the things that we've worked, and these are team wins. That's Bridger, by the way. These are team wins that I share with all the folks in our office, but also our constituents who have given us a lot of these ideas. What do I want to get done? We got another year and a half. First of all, nuclear command and control and survivability is a real problem. And I think I'm one of the first people identified as a problem. China and Russia can hit us in 15 minutes. We got to be able to respond. And I'm going to push the military to have a better survivable framework. And I think we're starting to get traction. I finally got four-star generals to acknowledge that we're not postured right for two adversaries that can hit us in 15 minutes right here at STRATCOM. We got to do better. And the remainder thing I want to focus on is get us pointed the right way with the right agreements and the initial funding for a new VA hospital. With the chip-in bill, we could find between our construction, philanthropic community, county and local support, city support, that we could contribute $700 million to this effort and have $1 billion plus VA hospital. And our vets deserve it. That facility was built in the early 50s. It leaks. It needs to be modernized. And that's what we aim to do. Let me close with some thank yous. I want to thank God first. I feel very blessed. I feel very lucky. First of all, Angie and I come from broken families. I feel blessed to be married 41 years, to have 4 great kids, great daughters and son-in-laws. We also got great sister-in-law that I married into here, and her husband, and Mike, and they moved here, by the way, so 2 more voters. I think they vote the right way. But I thank our family. Well, first of all, I thank God, but also for giving us a great family. But God's opened up these doors, and I pray every day for wisdom and His blessing. I do thank family. Angie, I met her at 18 years old, and I was not a straight A student. I had to attend a couple schools before I found one that liked me. I try to say it nicely, but we've been together 43 years now, dating and being married 41, and I love our kids and our grandkids, and our kids all married well, so they've raised the bacon pool. The best bacons are the ones who marry into our family. I want to thank the friends who are here today. I have a lot of folks who've been here from the beginning. Norm Riffle helped chair our campaign in 2016, right? County chair. And I look around, we got people who are part of our team for the get-go. I'm going to come back to the offices. You don't win these races without folks you can lean on like Norm. Also, is Bruce Friedlander here? Yeah, Bruce, another family guy. I'm married into his family, I think. and Norm's family. But you find that when you're in the trenches, it's great to have a network, not only support politically, but just be like family. And I want to take a moment to spend just a little time about our official team and our political team. We've had people on our political team from day one, like Danielle right here. I didn't even know who she was the first day she worked in, but somebody hired her. We got James. He's been here from day one. We have folk on the political side. Derek, I think he was 17 years old. I don't know. He started out, and he's been with us or associated with us ever since. We got it. So our official political team's been great. You don't do this stuff on your own. I thank you. You guys have been great. And those who've served and gone on to do other things, maybe making more money, good on you. Finally, let me close on this. I want to thank our constituents. We've been blessed for 5 elections to help represent. I appreciate the trust that was given us by the constituents of this district. I'm going nowhere. I look forward to being part of this community and expanding our friendships. But I am grateful to those who voted for me, who didn't vote for me. I appreciated the opportunity to serve. With that, we'll take some questions.
I'm going to start here.
Okay.
At the left, you go to the right. One question, please, Marjorie.
Pardon me? Okay. Okay, I have a good spouse says, make sure you mention, Matthew put this together. Where's he at? He's a turn. He's been our political campaign manager this last cycle. When I got Derek before that, we've had a lot of folks here who've been here. Yeah? Okay. I take advice. Thank you. Mary, she married a new Republican. I'm sorry. Mary is she's the mother of the office, keeping us all aligned. Yes, Marjorie.
I'm going to ask you about the big bill. Do you know how you're going to vote on that if it comes back from the Senate?
It's going to depend on the amendments that are passed. So we passed a bill that I would say is 80 or 85%. And I find it funny when some of the opponents on the other side of the aisle say, Don, you talk a good story, but you vote for it anyway. Yeah, I was at the table for 2 months negotiating on Medicaid. We were able to remove the block grants, the lower federal matches, and I was able to focus on work requirements for those who are able-bodied adults who don't have small children. We had a 20-hour work requirement. It could count as work, looking for work, volunteering, taking classes. It set a pretty low bar, and 72% of Americans support that. But on top of that, we've not been allowed to do an audit of the Medicaid rolls since COVID, and the CBO estimates that 2.6 million people are on there either illegally or are earning above the threshold to even be on Medicaid. I focus on that work and people that are ineligible or illegal, and that saved us $500 million. I think the Senate has done some new provisions in there that are concerning. And so, but they're voting on amendments saying, I know there's some amendments to strip some of the stuff that concerns me. So I just got to see how it will turn out. I'm also a believer in all the above energy. I felt like we passed legislation that was not in the big beautiful bill. Some things I liked. We were protecting biofuels. Some things I thought were a little too restrictive on solar and wind. But I also think that here the Senate took us a set of backwards on that. But there's a lot of amendments being voted on today, so I'm going to keep my powder dry and see how it turns out. In the end, I got to weigh, are we better off keeping the tax cuts permanent, keeping the inheritance tax off, keeping the investment tax credits on, and the things that we're going to do for our military in this bill? There's a lot of great stuff in this legislation, too, so you got to weigh it out.
Mary,
Yes, I'm sorry.
You mentioned this is not retire. When we talked in May, you said you were more inclined to look at executive opportunities based on some of your past experience. So in a year and a half from now, what does that mean? Is it in post-secondary education? Is it in the private sector? What do you want to do in this area?
I commanded 5 times. That is a lot more enjoyable than being one of 435 members doing legislation. I like leading. I like executive work. I like putting teams together and striving for things. I don't know what will look like. God will open doors, he'll shut doors. I just want to be ready to make a difference where I can. I want to be value added. I don't want to be dead weight. I want to make a difference wherever I go. I have a passion for federal or national security types things. But I just got to see what doors open and go from there. So when I retired from Congress, I never guessed I was going to run for. When I retired from Air Force, I never thought I was going to run for Congress. But 2 weeks after I retired, a door opened that I didn't see coming. So I just got to be ready for what opportunities come open.
Aaron,
I know you from somewhere.
Congressman, talk a little bit about your long relationship with Brad Ashford.
Yeah.
Honestly, the last conversation, one of the last conversations I had with the former congressman, he talked about what he wanted people to remember about his tenure. It was that he passed hard votes that people might not agree with, but that he could eventually restore. You and I talked a little bit after his death about one of the conversations you had about what he wanted remembered about. What do you want remembered about your term in that would fit with what you're talking about?
Well, first of all, I admire Brad Ashford. You know, we ran a good campaign with each other. There was outside groups that were a little more malicious, but him and I were very respectful towards each other, and we had a great relationship. It ended up we became very close friends by around 2020, and there's like 6 or 8 month time period where I think we talked every day. Angie was wondering what was going on. No, I'm just teasing. But we became close friends, and I ended up being a pallbearer at his funeral, and Ann has been also a blessing to our team and our family. What I hope to be remembered for is that I'm a Christian first, American second. Somewhere down here is being a Republican. It's about doing the right thing. And I'm a traditional conservative at heart, but I feel like I've been able to do what I thought was right, whether it's infrastructure, whether it was also certifying the election. I feel like that's constitutional. And whether it's trying to pick the right speaker, right? And so I've been able to weigh in. I also learned from a 4-star general. He says, if you've never fallen on your sword, there's something wrong with you. If you're falling on your sword every day, there's something wrong with you. So you got to pick and choose your battles. Some people want to fight a battle everywhere. You can't do that. You got to pick and choose the battles. But in the local area, I'm going to always be proud of rebuilding Offutt, Ashland, and hopefully having a totally modernized airport when it's all said and done.
Cassidy, Nebraska Rep.
Yes, ma'am.
So when it comes to the Republican Party and winning over this seat after you're done, what type of Republican would win this seat? What do they need to have? What characteristics do they need to have?
Well, be careful in a primary of being drug way to the right, because you can't win in the general. Can't win in the general with that. Our electorate is 30%. It's about a third Republican, third Democrat, third Independent. And I always tell some of my colleagues, Don, we want you to be more hardcore. And I say, yeah, I do great winning 37% of the vote, right? You can't win with 37% of the vote. You got to be able to reach in the middle. This last election, we got 12,000 Harris voters. And it's that's what it took to win. And a lot of people, I had some people mad about it. You won because you got Harris voters. Yeah, would you prefer having a Democrat-run House? Because that's the option. So I don't think people think 2 or 3 steps beyond this, right? And so this district, you got to win swing voters. It's just a fact of life. And so you got to be careful about not building positions in the primary. And I've always had my eyes focused on the general. Every election, I've never veered over here. I also think voters want people to be authentic, be honest about what you're going to do, and you do it. Now, I do think we have an advantage this time. The disadvantage right now is the midterm with the party in power tends to lose. But if you look at how the primary is shaping up here, I think very hardcore left candidates in this primary coming up, and they're going to be the ones staking out the hardcore left positions that are going to be hard to win in the midterm. You're going to already see it happening. If you're a researcher on the Republican side, it's going to be a smorgasbord of things you can find in the general election. So,
John Chapman, Charleston.
yeah, that was very good, sir.
You get vote with the president most of the time. How do you think that'll weigh in on the political days?
If you're in the majority and you're voting no all the time, that means you're not being effective behind closed doors negotiating. And a lot of folks don't realize that. If you're in the minority, a lot of times the majority is going to give you no time to negotiate, and it's harder to get in and change legislation. If you're in the majority, 2 months ago, I was at the table working Medicaid and making changes so I could vote for this bill. And I did on rescissions. We're going to get PBS funded, right, this year. So if you're at the majority, you got to be at the table early. You got to be where it's fluid still. If it's already cooked, it's hard to change at the last. So you can't just come in the day before a vote. You should be a month before the vote making things happen. So I feel like I've been an effective legislator of being able to say, hey, I can't vote for this bill unless we do 2 or 3 things. And you sit at the table and you work it out with the speaker, you work it out with Tom Emmer, you work it out with Steve Scalise or the chairman, and that's what we've been able to do. And did I get everything I want? No. But at some point, if you get half of what you want, you got to be able to shake hands and get to a yes. And that's what I've been able to do. And that's why we were rated the most effective legislator. Number 2. I've been rated number 2 or number 1 of the Republicans twice because I've been able to sit at the table. And I've been the overall top legislator once. And it's because we make that happen.
Wait
Congressman Reagan.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask a little bit, you kind of, when you describe yourself, you say you're a traditional Republican, real Republican, things like that. How do you foresee at the end of your term and then maybe at the end of President Trump's term, where the Republican Party will be? There's kind of a, sometimes maybe there's a little bit of a divide between
Yeah.
the heart, before.
I think there's things that we agree on. A secure border, for one. I supported the president on Iran. I thought it was. I served in Iraq. I lost friends from Iranian proxies. A guy I flew with died at Khobar Towers from an Iranian proxy. So I felt like it was time we needed to take action on them earlier, frankly. But we do have a tug of war in our party over isolationism. Should we have strong allies? The role of NATO. I'm grateful the president's come over our way a little bit in the last month or two on the NATO. But I believe in peace through strength. I also believe that without the United States, there's a big void, and Russia and China will fill it. We can't do it alone. We can't go against China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and terrorists. We need to have strong NATO. We need strong Japan. We need Australia. We need Israel. We need to work with a coalition of people that share our values and that support democracy, that support free market, support rule of law. That was what Ronald Reagan taught. That's his message, and I've embraced it. I think it's right. I'm a free trade and principle kind of guy. Now, granted, it's got to be fair. If countries aren't treating us fairly, you got to be able to fix that. But in the end, free trade gives you the best products at the best price in the most efficient manner possible, and that's been Milton Friedman's message, and that was our message ever since World War II. And so there's a tug of war in our party over that, and either weigh in or live with what you get, and I want to weigh in.
Tom, I can David
Recommend.
One of the first guys I interviewed with after I announced.
That's where I'm going with this. When we spoke 10 years ago, you were very concerned about the deficit. Since then, under Republican and Democratic administrations, the deficit has just gone through the roof. You voted for the big, beautiful bill, which also increases the deficit. And when they talked about the Senate version, you didn't mention the deficit once. Are tax cuts more important than getting the deficit under control?
Well, I think that people miss the real issue here, why we have a deficit. Now, the reason CBO scores increase deficits is because we're going to maintain the tax code that we have. If we don't vote for this bill, the taxes will go up about 20%. It's about $141 a month for the average Nebraskan. I don't think that's a good thing either. But that's what the CBO scores the deficit on is, well, are we going to let the tax cuts expire? Or are we going to sustain the ones? Now, there's some new ones in there, too, like taxes on tips. And the Senate's trying to figure out what's the threshold there. But this is where I've been criticized since the first race. People don't want to talk about the driver behind the deficit. We used to have 15 workers for every retiree. Now we have 2 workers for every retiree. And our withholdings does not cover the payments for Medicaid or Social Security. And so we got to have someone that's willing to say, maybe we should look at the caps. People stop paying in Social Security at $170,000. Maybe we should gap it between 170 and 250 and they start paying in again. There's different ways to do this. But right now our withholdings do not pay for retirees. And the same thing with Medicare. And that is the lion's share of our deficit. 73% of our spending right now is mandatory spending. And we only focus on the 27%. And you can't balance. You could cut the entire military, we're going to still have a deficit right now. And people don't realize that. So I've been a proponent for sitting at the table with Democrats, say, okay, what do we got to do with the withholdings? What do we got to do with the retirement age? Because unless you go down this path, we are not going to solve the deficit problem, Tom. And people don't want to talk about it because it's the third rail of politics. And that's why I've had millions of dollars of money spent against me every cycle, because I have to say, hey, unless you're talking about this, you're not really talking about the deficit. And a lot of my guys on the very right, they worry about dimes and pennies when the big bill is sitting over here and they refuse to talk about it. We need grown-ups in the room that are willing to take on the big problem here. And you can't solve this Republican only. You got to sit down with Democrats, say, okay, they're going to want to work on caps. A lot of Republicans want to work on retirement age, maybe go to 68. By the way, Great Britain just went to 70. A lot of people don't realize this because they got the same problem. But we're going to have to work a compromise on the Democrat side, and that will solve lion's share of the deficit.
What do you hope the next person who has your seat does in their role?
I hope they do what I did with Brad Asher. Let's get the new VA done. They're going to have to close the deal. So, Henry.
I guess that's me. I want to hit on the airport thing. We're holding this in the airport. You thought you were going to fly out. How come you're not? Number two, are you going to miss these weekly flights to DC? And did you have any particular airport adventures during your time?
Well, I got a couple. So we were supposed to go tonight and vote tomorrow morning, but the House says now they're not going to vote till Wednesday at the earliest, so I don't have to fly. But Friday they were said be prepared to fly out today, so that's why I moved everything here. Yeah, but trying to be a good planner, right? I got a couple of good stories, but the one I remember, we got $1.4 billion for Offutt. If you remember the floods, I had a deal worked out with the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, who was a Democrat, Smith, Chairman Smith at the time, now he's ranking member, Smith. And we had a deal to get money for Offutt and Ashland. And I came in that day. The night before we had a deal, I come in that day for the markup. And he goes, Don, Speaker Pelosi won't let us, she disapproved our handshake deal. You're going to get no money for Offutt, no money for Ashland. And the military's going to have to take it out of hide. In other words, buy less airplanes or whatever. And so we ended up doing a 22-hour markup. I started at 10 a.m. We went till 8 a.m. the next day. I got an agreement at 5 a.m. to get money for Offutt because I had the votes. But make a long story short, I missed my flight, direct flight, coming back here. I had to go through Atlanta, and I had 36 hours no sleep. I got lost. It felt like I had a 12-pack of beer, not that I know what that feels like. But I needed somebody to take me by the hand and take me to the next plane. I missed my flight at Atlanta, too. I was so tired, I didn't know how to get to A to B. So I was a wandering guy at the airport for a while until somebody took me under their arms and got me to the right spot.
And finally, Morgan with NTV.
I hear you got the hardest question.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay.
For sure. So going into the big, beautiful bill and the deficit a little bit, there has been a lot of talk, even just on the radio on the way here, cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. What are your thoughts on this, or maybe a message you have for Nebraskans who are scared and are hearing this?
Yeah. Well, politics are such where things get demonized and exaggerated for starters. But I worked hard under the House bill to protect those who need Medicaid. Children were protected. Disabled adults were protected. Adults that weren't disabled but under the safety net were going to be protected. But I also knew that we could do some smart things. So work requirements for able-bodied, healthy adults that don't have small children, 20 hours a week. It doesn't have to be work. It could be looking for a job, volunteering, taking classes. 3/4 of Americans support this. And it was a $300 billion savings. If you get people back to work on employer health care, that's a good thing, right? Get them off Medicaid. We want to get them on a normal insurance if we can. Then my plan was, if you're earning over the cap for Medicaid, or if you're illegal, you should come off the rolls as well. That was what I pushed, and I think I could defend that all day. It protects those who need it. Now, you can demonize everything, but I think when people hear that was our plan, it was what I pushed months in advance of this vote. And I took heat from the speaker the day I said it. I had 2 White House people come to my office after I said it. But in the end, that's what we passed out of the House. Now, the Senate is looking at other additional cuts. And it is concerning. But I don't know how it's going to go. I think they're going to have amendments today to strip some of those things out. So we'll have to see what the final result is. In the end, the growth in Medicaid is still there. It's still going to grow, but at a lesser rate. And that will be the other side of the debate. Medicaid's still going to be gaining dollars, but at a reduced level. But I felt like we had a plan that I could defend all day long. And I would encourage the Senate to embrace the House plan. I do think there's some things I wanted better on SNAP. We had work requirements on SNAP, but they did a co-share or co-pay with the states. I thought it was a little high, but I got it down from 80 million to 30 million. At some point, you got to shake hands and say, okay, I'll take the deal. I was hoping the Senate would make that better, but I don't know if they are or not. So, in the end, we've got to see what's passed out of the Senate. And they're going to have a vote-a-rama today. Probably dozens, maybe hundreds of amendments are going to be put on the floor. So it's too early to say what it's going to look like. I would be remiss if I didn't. Angie and I made friends when I got here as a second lieutenant with Dika and her husband. They've been family friends with us since I was a second lieutenant. Scott is our treasurer of our campaign. Thank you. You guys have been part of the team. Appreciate it. We good? Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's been an honor to serve. I thank the 2nd District for the opportunity. Thank you.